Thank you very much, Elaine. And we have been friends for a very, very long time. And in fact, I've got a few people on this call. Phoebe Wallace, she's been a dear friend of mine for at least I don't know, 15 years. And other people around the world that are dear friends. And we're very happy that all of you are on. A little bit of background. My life has been spent looking for breakthrough products. I was a chronic failure. When I graduated from college, I lost 9 jobs in 6 years. And if you can top that after college, losing 9 jobs in 6 years, raise your hand. But in all the times I've spoken to thousands and thousands of people, I've only had one person raise their hand in that amount of time. I couldn't succeed no matter how hard I tried. Then a dear friend gave me the key. The key was get wisdom. Where do you get wisdom? Well, he steered my eyes to the book of Proverbs in the Bible. And it says, above all things, get wisdom. And I had just lost job number 5. And he said, how would you like to be wiser than all your bosses? I was 26 years old. And I said, yeah, right. He said, no, there's something you can do for 2 years. Do it for 2 years. In 2 years, you'll be wiser than all your bosses. And in 5 years, you'll probably be a millionaire. And he was wrong. I was a millionaire in 2.5 years, not 5. But I was totally broke when he told me that. I just lost job number 5. And for the next 18 months, I would try to read a chapter in Proverbs every day, write down with pencil and paper the wisdom and insights from that and begin to apply it to my work. And in the next 18 months, I went through Proverbs about 18 times. And I went through jobs number 6, 7, and 8. But on job number 9, everything clicked. And I took a job in a big company, big catalog company, and in a nothing position, the bottom of the marketing department. Using these strategies, I was able to double their sales from 30 million a year to 60 million a year. Well, with that, a man offered to back me in my own business. He had $5,000. I had an idea. And we started our own business on May 10th, 1976, when gasoline was only about 38 cents a gallon here in the United States. And fortunately, things were amazing. And within 5 months, our sales of our little tiny company hit $1 million a week. So that'd be about $3 million a week today. And how do you turn a $5,000 investment into $3 million a week? Well, it was because we found a breakthrough product and we learned how to communicate that to mass audiences through television. And in the next 35 years that followed, we found product after product. We would find products that were truly breakthroughs, buy the rights to them, the patents to them when they had patents, and we would marry them to a celebrity. I ended up with 93 celebrities under contract. Academy Award winners like Charlton Heston, Cher, Jane Fonda, Holly Hunter. Emmy Award winners like Ted Danson, John Ritter, Michael Landon, Tom Selleck. Big celebrities, Grammy Award winners like Kenny Rogers and Cher. Hall of Fame athletes like Joe Montana and Terry Bradshaw. But God blessed our business. And by the time I retired, we had done billions of dollars in sales. The one we were best known for here in the United States is called the Total Gym with Chuck Norris and Christy Brinkley. That's been on the air now for how long? 27 years, longest running infomercial campaign in television history. And we're Total Gym that we advertise in that campaign is now in 30,000 rehab facilities. In fact, I just met somebody the other day that was rehabbed on a Total Gym. About 30 million people a year here in the United States are rehabbed on Total Gyms. That was a breakthrough product. A breakthrough is a product that can do something that nothing else in the world can do as effectively, efficiently, or economically. And in a few minutes, I'm going to show you evidence of the breakthrough we're talking about. Michael, did you get the new slides or do you still have the old slides?
Yep, no, we didn't get anything new yet.
Okay, so let's go ahead and let's use the old slides. What I would, but I'm not going to do it yet. I'm going to go ahead and give a little background. Thank you. And there we go. Little miscommunication on my part tonight. But anyway, I kept looking for breakthroughs. In 2006, I met a doctor from the Mayo Clinic. He also had his own clinic. He was a brilliant doctor, brilliant researcher. He was an immunologist, an oncologist, and a hematologist. And he had his own clinic as well in Florida. And he introduced me to a word that he said would become the biggest word in my vocabulary. And he said it would change everything. It would change my life. Well, he was right. It did. The word is glutathione. And glutathione, it turns out, is the most important molecule in life. It's right there with oxygen and water. Without glutathione, there'd be no life on Earth, no animals, no plants, trees, people, nothing. And it is created by every cell in our body. Every cell makes glutathione, especially it's made in abundance in the liver. And it performs over 400 functions. And I'll share a few of those tonight, but without it, we'd all be dead within a few minutes. And so what I want to do is talk about it because it is so critical. It determines how you go through your life. It determines how you get through it physically, how you get through it mentally, oftentimes how you get through it emotionally. If people around you get sick, your lack of glutathione will let you get sick. If you have an abundant glutathione, you still may get sick, but not near as sick as everyone around you. And you will recover much more rapidly if you have an abundant level of glutathione. Now, as you hear about what we're going to talk about tonight, realize that your glutathione levels decline by 10 to 15% per decade. So if you're 50 years old, at best, you have 30% less than you had at 20, because it starts declining at the age of 20. And at worst, you have 45% less. And since it's the primary protector of the cell, that turns out to be really bad news. So let's talk for a minute about some of the things glutathione does for you right now. Right now, it's working in your cells. Okay, what does it do? Well, let's start at the top. Let's start with oxygen transfer. When your body makes hemoglobin, that red blood molecule, or red blood cell, the purpose is so it will bind to oxygen and deliver oxygen throughout the body. We all know that. And deliver it to every cell in the body. The problem is when hemoglobin is manufactured, it has the wrong electromagnetic charge. It cannot bind to oxygen. It can't touch it. It can't connect with it. Okay, it's like trying to bring north poles of magnets together. You think you can do it until it gets closer and closer and they start to wiggle and boom, you can't, no matter how hard you do it, you just can't. And if you have something on top of them, they go that way or that way. Well, the same thing with hemoglobin and oxygen. So hemoglobin has to be reduced to a positive 2. When that reduction takes place, it binds automatically to the oxygen. And then it delivers that oxygen to every cell in your body. Well, the only thing in life that can reduce hemoglobin to that positive 2 so it can bind to oxygen is glutathione. So without glutathione right out of the gate, there's no oxygen transfer. You take that nice deep breath in. That feels so good when it gets in your lungs, but guess what? It'd get into your bloodstream, but it wouldn't go anywhere because it wouldn't connect to the red blood cells. So oxygen transfer is one. You know, I have the joy of speaking to thousands of doctors each year. I'm going to speak to 2,000 of them in just 2 weeks from now. And they're always shocked. They all know about glutathione, but they didn't know it had anything to do with oxygen transfer. Well, that's not all it does. We all learned during the pandemic the importance of our immune system. People with robust, strong, highly responsive immune systems, they didn't die. Maybe they got sick, but they made it through it. People with suppressed immune systems got very sick oftentimes, and of course, millions died. Well, how well your immune system responds to a bacterial or viral attack is entirely dependent upon glutathione. High glutathione levels, what happens is when the bacteria or virus gets into your body, the biggest problem besides the damage it's doing is it is reproducing very rapidly. Well, what the immune system does, it ramps up and starts putting out T cells and B cells. Those T cells and B cells, primarily the T cells, are the assassins of the immune system. They target the bacteria, they target the virus, they go after it, and they try to kill it. Well, if your virus or bacteria is reproducing fast and your T cells are reproducing slow, guess who wins? The virus wins. So you get sick, maybe very sick, maybe even die. Well, glutathione, when you have higher levels, then the T cells and B cells reproduce much more rapidly, even explosively. So that's the good news if you have high glutathione levels. Like I said, unfortunately, our glutathione levels decline by 10 to 15% per decade. The assault on our bodies and our cells never declines. So we fight all these battles with a lot less bullets, which is why when you get older, you tend to be more apt to get sick, more very ill. And that's why typically the older we get, the more likely we are at risk for dying. Okay, so the immune system, raise glutathione levels, you accelerate the reproduction of T cells in response to a bacterial or viral insult. The mitochondrial DNA, just a word, but the mitochondrial DNA, as long as it remains intact in your cells, the cells can't mutate. But when it's compromised or broken, then the cell is at risk for mutating. And we know that mutating cells with broken DNA, guess what? It creates a very, very seriously ill risk. Risk that can bankrupt people, a risk that can put you in the hospital pretty quickly, a risk that can kill you. And so it's critical that we protect that mitochondrial DNA. What breaks the mitochondrial DNA is the chemical load in the cells. Everybody on this call has at least 200 industrial chemicals in your cells right now that were never intended to be there. And it's that chemical load in the cell that compromises and ultimately breaks the mitochondrial DNA. So the best way to protect the mitochondrial DNA is to lower the chemical load, to detoxify the cells. Guess what? Glutathione is the detoxifier of the cells. If we raise glutathione levels, we see the toxic level, the chemical load in the cells decline, and thus we prolong the protection and the integrity of the mitochondrial DNA. So that's just one more function of glutathione, is to protect the mitochondrial DNA by lowering the toxic level and the chemical load in the cell. Everybody has at least 200 of these chemicals. How do we know? Well, there was a study done back in the late 90s of 2,000 individuals. They tested for 143 industrial chemicals to see how many the average person carried around. Well, here in the United States, every single person had all 143. They repeated the test a few years later, but this time testing for 217 chemicals, industrial chemicals, and everybody had all 217. You can't avoid it, okay? We can't clean everything up. There's over 86,000 industrial chemicals that are in our air, in our water, in our food at one point or another, and we simply can't get rid of it. So we have to defend against it. Well, glutathione is the detoxifier of the cell. It's also the chelator of the cell. What does that mean? We're all exposed to heavy metals in all sorts of ways, in our water, in our air. And those heavy metals include arsenic, cadmium, copper. Copper, a little bit of copper is great. A lot of copper isn't great. And glutathione is the chelator of the cells. Now, the way glutathione detoxifies the cell, this is brilliant. It's a very complex molecule, and it has a sulfhydryl molecule that's sticky, that's like flypaper, or remember like spider traps, where it sticks to the chemical and then it gets it out of the cell. That's the brilliance of glutathione. Every liver cell in your liver, every single cell has 1,000 times more glutathione than any other cell in the body. Why? Because the liver not only detoxifies your blood, it has to detoxify itself. When it detoxifies the blood, it collects all these toxic materials, chemicals, all sorts of things. And if it doesn't get rid of a load of that, guess what? You're going to die of liver disease. So it has, every cell in the liver has 1,000 times more glutathione, and it uses glutathione to detoxify itself. Unfortunately, like all the other cells in our body, its production of glutathione declines as we age. Now, I'm 75 years old. So that means I have less than half of the glutathione that I had at the age of 20. That's really bad news. Okay, what else does glutathione do? Well, what it's best known for is its antioxidant value. Now, every cell in your body, you have at least 37 trillion cells. Every single cell is attacked 10,000 to 20,000 times a day by free radicals. So picture yourself, you're in your living room, somebody comes pounding on your door. They say, hey, you got to get out of here. And you say, well, my car's out of gas. I have nowhere to go. Why do I have to get out? There's 10 to 20,000 enemy troops coming after you. They all have loaded guns, and you are their only target. They want to kill you. And somehow you miraculously take care of that first day and get rid of the 10 to 20,000 radicals that are chasing you down. But guess what? The next day, there's another 10 to 20,000. And the next day, 365 days a year, the free radicals keep coming every single day, every hour, every day, week, month, and year of your life. Well, the way your body deals with that is with antioxidants. What happens? A free radical is just a thief, a scavenger. It wants to steal an electron from the cell. And when it does that, it creates a terrible problem. It's called oxidative stress. Too much oxygen in the cell to process, so that creates a reaction inside the cell that does two terrible things. Number one, it creates inflammation in the cell. Now, inflammation is our mortal enemy, okay? It's what keeps wounds from healing. It's what keeps burns from healing. It's what makes every cell in your body work sluggishly, okay? They become less efficient in all the duties the cells undertake because of that inflammation. The other thing that oxidative stress does is it accelerates the aging of the cells and the tissues and the organs and your muscles and your joints and your bones. Everything gets older faster because of oxidative stress. Now, the way an antioxidant works to help fight oxidative stress, it donates one of its electrons to the free radical. And when that donation takes place, it sequesters, captures, neutralizes that free radical so it can't create the oxidative stress. That's the role of an antioxidant. The problem is that there is a spectrum of free radicals. They're not all alike. In fact, they're very, very different. They have different sources. Some come from oxygen, some come from hydrogen, some come from nitrogen. They have different chemical compositions. They have different structures. Well, all antioxidants, vitamin C, vitamin E, CoQ10, superoxide dismutase, catalase, they all are monofocused. So each one can take out one type, but they leave all the others. So vitamin C can take out that type of free radical, but it leaves all these other guys. Vitamin E can take out that one, leaves all the other guys. CoQ10 takes out that one, leaves all of these. Superoxide dismutase, catalase, and so on. So how do you get enough that can handle the never-ending barrage of free radicals? Well, glutathione's the key. Why? All the other free radicals all the other antioxidants are like a key to a hotel room. Each one opens one type of door, doesn't open any others. Glutathione is like the master key to the hotel that opens any and every door in the hotel. Glutathione is called the master antioxidant because it, unlike all others, it can sequester, capture, neutralize all free radicals, regardless of their source, regardless of their structure, regardless of their chemical composition. Now, we have a lot of free radicals in our modern society that our parents didn't have to deal with. For example, one of the most aggressive and deadly, for lack of a better word, comes from nitrogen. What happens is when those wonderful cell waves come into your telephone from antennas that are within 2 or 3 miles, those antennas are emitting microwaves that not only get into the phone, they get into our body. And when those microwaves or small levels of radiation react with the nitrogen already in our body, it creates a free radical called peroxynitrite. Peroxynitrite. Peroxynitrite lives 1 billion times longer than oxygen-based free radicals. And it lives so long and is so powerful, it can transfer from one cell to another. And guess what it does? It attacks that mitochondrial DNA. Thankfully, there is one antioxidant that can neutralize peroxynitrite. And of course, that's glutathione, because it takes care of any of them. That's what it's designed to do. It's 1 million times more powerful than vitamin C or vitamin E. In fact, once an antioxidant donates one of its electrons to capture the free radical, guess what happens? It's out of bullets. It's like an empty gun. It's fired off its one and only electron, and now it's useless, okay? However, vitamin C and vitamin E are good antioxidants, great antioxidants, for one reason. They can be reloaded. They can be recycled 3 to 5 times. Now that's crazy. So they donate an electron and then they can be recycled. Guess what recycles vitamin C and vitamin E? Glutathione. It is the recycling agent of C and E. So glutathione makes your vitamin C and vitamin E 300% to 500% more effective. That's huge. Now, if you have low levels of glutathione, not only can the vitamin C and vitamin E, they may not be recycled, but even worse, the gates to your cells may close and not allow the vitamin C or vitamin E in, okay? Glutathione is what opens the gates. Now, glutathione, it is the master antioxidant. It can sequester any of them, but our problem is, like I said, it declines. Now, listen to what else it does. It, at the age of 20, when glutathione levels start going down, as they decline, there's lots of studies. Glutathione is the most studied molecule in medicinal science. Over 179,000 published studies on glutathione. That's more than any other molecule. Now, what happens is glutathione declines, according to the studies, it opens the gateway to 78 disease classes of aging: cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, pulmonary diseases, degenerative neurological diseases, kidney diseases, liver diseases. The gateways open up as glutathione levels decline. In fact, Dr. Mehmet Oz, a Harvard heart surgeon who used to have a TV show, in one of his shows, he dedicated the entire show to glutathione. And he opened the show by saying, quote, "Glutathione, the most important antioxidant you've never heard of. It is what protects us from the diseases you fear the most." Pretty cool. And his guest that day happened to be Dr. David Katz from Yale University, head of disease prevention at Yale. And they both said, glutathione is your body's miracle molecule. Now, Why is it a miracle molecule? Because of all the other things it does. Guess what? It recycles itself. It's like a gun that has one bullet in it. Boom, it fires it off and instantly makes another bullet. Fires that, makes another one. Glutathione is the only antioxidant that recycles itself. It would be like your car. As soon as you run out of fuel in your car, you tell your buddy, don't worry, it's making new fuel. It's like having a car engine that can make its own fuel. Okay, that's what a miracle glutathione is. And so here's the problem, is the decline creates all sorts of problems. The decline starts at 20. So if you're 50 years old, figure at best, you have 30% less glutathione than you had at 20. At worst, you have 45% less. Now, it not only declines as we age, it declines locally in different areas of our body based on disease states, based on exercise. When you exercise, you instantly create tremendous amounts of oxidative stress that use up local stores of glutathione. Now, don't worry, because exercising will also cause it to come back up a little later. But you take that dip, which is why a lot of people, when they have exercise programs, they'll find they go into the gym and they come home and they get sick from what they were exposed to at the gym, because guess what? When they're exposed to it, their glutathione levels taking a dip from the exercise. The value of exercise way exceeds any negative. So you always want to be exercising. Now, like I said, I'm 75, so I have less than 40% of the glutathione. So knowing that, why don't we just go to the store and buy some glutathione capsules? You can buy them at any health food store. The problem is glutathione is a long chain molecule. It's three amino acids intricately woven into one molecule through a 100-step electrochemical process. It's a miracle, okay? In fact, it's a sequential process. It is truly amazing when you look at it. And, but it's very fragile. And as soon as it hits the stomach, it breaks, so it can't get into the cell, okay? You're not raising your glutathione levels. Now, some clever people have surrounded the glutathione particles with fats, lipids, and that helps get some through the stomach. It makes the particles bigger so it doesn't get to every cell, but it helps. It's better than nothing, right? It's like having a bicycle that only has one gear, and the gear is high gear, so you have to go up a hill. So you pedal real fast, but you go real slow, and that's not good. Well, there's a better way. It's called injections or infusions of glutathione. A lot of athletes do that before a game, before an event. Now, that gets it directly into the bloodstream, so it doesn't go into the stomach. That's really good. Now, it costs anywhere from $150 to $300 per infusion, depending on the solution, who's injecting it, is it an IV or is it an injection? All those things are variables. Here's the problem with IV. The half-life of glutathione, once it gets into the cell, is on average 90 minutes. Now, some cells, the half-life is 10 minutes. Other cells in our body, it'll last for a whole 4 hours. But the average, according to studies, is 90 minutes. So that means you get an injection here, 90 minutes later, it's at half of its value, half of its strength. 90 minutes after that, it's half of that, and so on. So with an infusion, you get about 6 good hours, and then you have a tail of about another 24 to 28 hours. That's where it's less productive. Okay, it's better than nothing, believe me, but it's very expensive, and most people don't want to go get an injection every day. Well, here we come. Here comes the biggest breakthrough of Steve Scott's lifetime. And we found a way to miniaturize the molecules, the particles of glutathione, not the molecules, but the particles, and of its precursing amino acid, L-cysteine. And what happens, you swish it like a mouthwash. You can hold it under your tongue, and then you swallow. Now, the glutathione that gets in your stomach is going to get broken. But the particle size and the way we have our water designed It goes in through the mucosa, right into your bloodstream and sublingually in the venous cavity. And guess what? 70 seconds later, it's out of the bloodstream. It's in the cells that fast. So athletes see a very quick response. We always tell athletes, and we have some world-class, world champion athletes on the product, we tell them you take it 5 minutes before an event, 5 minutes before a workout, and then if it's an endurance event, we say take another serving every hour of the event, because you're using up your glutathione at a very rapid rate when you're in an endurance of any kind of exercise event. And so by doing it every hour, you're beating the half-life. Well, athletes do that, and they see a level of performance they haven't even imagined prior to that. Then we tell them take it afterwards, and guess what happens? Their recovery goes way down. Now, we have a medical advisory board of renowned doctors. They're from Harvard, Stanford, University of California. They're from the Mayo Clinic, Houston Heart Center. I mean, it's crazy where our doctors come from, and they all serve unpaid for free. Why? Because they've seen the effectiveness of our product. I have to tell you, it's the most effective, most incredible product I've ever seen in my life. And we're going to show you some pictures in a minute. Well, one of our doctors is in Spain. He has 19 clinics throughout Europe, and they focus, it's sports medicine. They focus on world champion athletes, world-class athletes, and professional athletes. And he saw such a difference. He's a marathoner, this Dr. Osorio, and he ultimately joined our medical board. And he saw such a difference. He said, do you mind if I do some analytics to see what's going on? I said, yeah, go ahead. So we sent him more product that he could do testing with his athletes. And here is something remarkable. With conditioned athletes, he saw it delay the onset of lactic acidosis by almost 17%. Now, what does that mean? For a runner, it gives him 2 additional kilometers. That's a mile, about a mile 3, I think, before your body even starts producing lactic acid. With his conditioned runners, they would normally start producing lactic acid at the 12-kilometer mark. On our product, they started at the 14-kilometer mark. He said, this is the biggest game changer I have ever seen. He said, do you realize it not only improves the athlete's performance, and it's heart healthy, brain healthy, all of that, because it's glutathione, it's what they want. But on top of that, it accelerates their recovery, because lactic acid is what destroys the muscle cells and the tissues, and it's what creates the soreness, and it's what you have to recover from the damage that lactic acid does throughout your body. You delay its onset and progression, and good news, you're going to recover much faster. And many of our athletes report recoveries that used to take anywhere from 3 days to a week. They report they've recovered overnight, some within 2 days when it would take 5 or 6 days. It's really incredible, and that allows them to work out more frequently with more intensity. Okay, so one of our athletes, let's see, I've got to see what time it is. Okay, oh, I'm doing good.